Alright, welcome back. I hope everyone's enjoying their free month of communism here. So what am I going to talk about today? I think I'm just going to bounce around. I didn't prepare, really, a little bit. And we'll just talk about a few things. First of all, not financial advice. Consult your licensed financial advisor before doing anything. Stocks, cryptos, all extremely volatile, extremely risky, especially right now. And do not invest anything you are not willing to lose or lose sleep over. You know, a lot of you guys message me. I get like over 100 messages a day. So if I get to you, I get to you eventually. For some of you who don't have like savings, or maybe you're very young, what's the best thing to do? Not life advice, but we're gonna head into a probably at least a decade of just depression. Now, we've had a quote-unquote recession since 2008. Things never really got back to normal. Matter of fact, after 2001, that's when things started heading noticeably downhill. Since I have been around, and I'm in my mid-30s, the 90s were pretty great, but after that, it's been downhill ever since. Despite whatever they say, right? Your quality of life, in general, I mean, it all depends on what you're doing, what field you're in, what expertise, if you own a business, if you don't. So, I think you should try to build a business that would do good during times like these, and that's not easy. Building a business is very hard, especially with regulations and whatnot. More and more come out, and it's you're gonna have to make sacrifices. You're gonna have to breathe your job. Like, people who start businesses, they work like every day, 12, 16-hour days. But in the end, it's a risk too, right? It might not work out, or it might work out really well. And it never ends. And that's what people don't see. People only see the nice cars and the money and the nice house, but they don't see that you have to be a workaholic, you're stressed out, and you have to go through a lot. But it's way more worth it, and in my opinion, better than working for someone else and not having any job security or certainty, right? And living paycheck to paycheck, just getting indebted. So I suggest you try that. If, trying a business isn't for everyone. Only 1% of the population actually pull it off. Become an expert at something that you enjoy, preferably. Because if you enjoy it, it's not really work. And if you become an expert at it, you become valuable in society. And you will do better than everyone else. You'll have that's all I can say pretty much for right now. Investment wise, you only buy stocks if you have extra money you're willing to lose. Only money you're willing to lose goes into stocks. For savings, what I'm doing is my savings is in physical, and it's in bullion banks, right? Guarded with people, guarded with security and whatnot, and insured. And then the amount that I'm willing to lose 100% risk goes into stocks. And with stocks, I try to grow my portfolio, grow my account, and then every quarter I take a little bit of some of those profits, and then I'll buy physical and just keep growing my nest egg of gold and silver pretty much for now. And then, at some point, gold and silver will peak out, and you might want to move over to physical assets besides them, preferably that generate revenue. Like, see, I don't want to say buy an apartment building, because people who rent out may get royally screwed in the next few years, depending on who becomes empowered, laws and whatnot. You could try to build a business with that income, with the profits you took, but that's also risky. I think the first thing is to have a plot of land, a home that you own, and become self-sufficient. Because we're going to enter some very uncertain times. I mean, if you think this was bad, you've seen nothing yet. Listen, this is like a new era of where we're entering, kind of like World War I, World War II era. By the way, so what you're watching here is the U.S. unemployment claims, historical since, like, I don't know, 1960 or 70s. And you can just see what just happened in the past few weeks, right? I mean, look at that. This has never really happened before, not even during the Great Depression. Not this quickly. Now, a lot of people think, and mainstream media will make you think, there'll be a V-bottom recovery, and somehow everyone's going to get their jobs back. Yeah, I don't think so. Not the service sector jobs, not like bartending, waitresses. There's a lot of jobs in the US or all around the world that they're not necessities, and they were byproducts of all the cheap money and credit and debt that has been accumulated in the past few decades. But it really ramped up after 2008 because they blew a giant bubble to save the economy. And now that bubble popped, and will they be able to reinflate it? It's possible, but they can't reinflate it without massive, massive inflation and massive deficits. And mathematically, that is like, it gets to a point where the inflation becomes so bad that you can't reinflate the bubble. If that makes sense. Locally, the stores now, the big stores, you have to wait for hours in line just to get into the store because they're cutting back people from the amount of people who could shop in the store at once. And this might become sort of a new normal. Also, fewer goods, so prices are going to go up just based on supply and demand. And now there's going to be, MMT, free money for everyone, so more cash eventually will be chasing less goods and services. And I know the dollar milkshake theory thing, and I said that is short term. Eventually, other countries and corporations, they'll either all get bailed out with funny money or they'll default. But the problem is the economy. The fundamentals. The Main Street. Main Street is detached from the credit markets and the financial markets. So if there is a depression, which is very likely now, uh, those companies who have all that dollar denominated debt will just stop making payments, and then the demand for dollars will go away. And that's when the inflation comes. And the dollar, what I talk about the dollar the most because it's the world reserve currency. The euro, though, I'm pretty confident Europe's gonna implode. I'm just gonna bounce around, guys. So I kind of, I had a little argument with him because constantly, this is in the newsroom, by the way, links below the video. A lot of people are calling for just more quarantine and more shutting down of the economy. And Mike Maloney made a video yesterday, and I've been talking about this for weeks. You can't really shut it off much longer, because if you do, in the long term, that's actually going to be, there will be more fatalities due to that. And, shutting it off, it's not like you just turn off a car and turn it back on. When you shut off an economy, it's really hard to get it back up and moving. Because once you shut it off, all of a sudden, because it's so financialized and leveraged through debt, all the debts go boom. Because a lot of businesses, a lot of small businesses, large corporations, this and that, they've been holding on from month to month, barely getting by. A lot of zombie corporations, all the small businesses have been, a lot of them don't have savings because they're indebted as well. Everyone's indebted. This is what happens when you have artificially low interest rates. Everyone becomes indebted, and if you shut off the economy even for 1 month, you see those massive unemployments and the massive amounts of businesses going under, like instantly. And that's because it's a bubble. So when you shut it off, how do you bring it back to life? That's what I'm saying. I don't think they could reinflate this bubble. And there's already massive amounts of businesses going under. And it's a vicious cycle. Once it starts, it has to run its course. It's really hard to, once in motion, it tends to stay in motion for quite some time. Because once one company lays off thousands of employees, then they stop shopping. And then the rest, and then businesses around, and then smaller businesses, other businesses suffer because those people stop shopping. And then they go under. And then it's a domino. It's just like dominoes falling. Europe. Good video. I posted it in the newsroom. You should watch that. Europe's gonna break up, guys. I mean, nobody's helping each other. That was the purpose of it, right? Some sort of centralized EU, that they help each other during times of need like this. Yeah, everyone said, screw you. I need to focus on my country surviving this. So it was already breaking up. UK broke away. I don't see it lasting another year. So the euro itself, the currency, is probably going to tank. Now, the question is that going to temporarily, for a few weeks or months or something like that, push up the dollar? Probably. So that the dollar and the US markets may benefit from it temporarily short term. I also think gold and silver will as well, because, some people are smarter than others, and they will go into the safest asset. And the euro breaking up, for the long term, it's good for Europe and all the countries and the world. But short term, there's going to be some massive pain. Crazy austerity in the pig nations like Spain, Italy, the southern European nations, southern West, and the rest. I mean, the entire world. You're going to see all the empty promises for what they really are, right? And they're all going to print. Breaking up from the EU also lets the countries print their own money. So they're going to see massive inflation in Europe too. And it'll be different in each country how bad it'll be, but yeah. Germany at least has an industrial manufacturing base. They will probably, I mean, it's the euro thing is really theirs, but they're not benefiting from it anymore. So they're just going to probably break away for their own survival. Now we have central bankers coming out saying we're going to go into a recession. Recession is like a nice way of saying it's not going to be a recession. I think it's going to be a depression, a stagflationary depression. Much worse than 2008. Half a million Chinese traveled into the U.S. Right around the time it was breaking out in China. Global travel after this, if you want to like, you know, be one of those millennials who travels all around the world, yeah, well, you're probably going to have to wait a while before you could do that again. I posted this video in the newsroom. He did a great job explaining the manipulation and how the London gold fix will be unfixed. And it was a good video, so I posted it in here in the newsroom. Boomers are gonna suffer. That's all I have to say. And honestly, it's their generation who led us into all this, so what goes around comes around. The universe has a funny sense of humor. Let's talk about, I'll get to oil. Future slide is European economy craters, dollar surges, all eyes on payrolls. In the macro sense of things, guys, I mean, you could follow all of the intricacies of... All you really need to know, it's a super complex Ponzi, and Europe is in a bad place with their banking sectors. They were already really weak prior to this. So they're gonna, and they don't have world reserve currency status, so the euro is gonna take a huge hit. They're gonna do endless QE as well, and then eventually the nations are gonna break apart from the union, and then you're gonna see them do more QE on their own, massive austerity, and you're gonna see like Great Depression in Europe, just like you will in the rest of the world. So what is this? Oh. So let's talk about the nano zombie for a second. Globally, we are at 1,188,000. People who passed away, 64,000 globally. The U.S. is at 300,000. People, 8,100 has passed away so far. On the grand scheme of things, I get it. It's not that bad. There's 8 billion people. Well, okay, if you let it... If everyone gets it, then how big would this number really be? It'd be in the hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not a billion. Well, it wouldn't be a billion, but it would be hundreds. And then who knows what the long-term side effects are. And again, this thing's moving through the world. In third world, right? In second world areas, it's still spreading like wildfire. And it's like a petri dish. So this thing could mutate into something way more virulent and, way more dangerous. There's already like 8 different strands, known strands. So it depends which one you get. We don't get any data. Like, nobody's talking about, well, if you do get it and you survive, do you build up immunity to all the strands? Or can you get reinfected? Like, that's really important. Of course, they're not telling us anything, which makes me worry even more, because when they're not saying anything, that means it's probably worse than even what we think. And either way, the world's going to be really different from, like, even if they're going to have to take the lockdowns down eventually. You really can't keep the economy going like this any, much longer. Because then you're going to get to the Mad Max scenario. You will. It's just fact. If you just keep the lockdown going for much longer. And there, of course, there's people out there calling for it. And some of them are probably psychopaths. You know who I'm talking about. What I'm trying to say is everyone is it's gonna be like law. You cannot leave your home without a mask on, which is, it's probably the first thing that we should have done. And it's the most effective, and you get the most freedom with it. And it's cheap, right? Cheap for us. I mean, I've been warning about this for months now, so you guys should all have masks. If you don't, that's your fault. There's videos now of there's tons of videos circulating that I forgot who, the Inspector General, something like that. Well, he made a video of taking a cloth and turning it into a mask. And you're just going to see people walking around with their old shirts on their faces. Not us. We're going to be walking around with nice masks. Haters are going to hate. But, that's the new normal. And it's probably going to be around for a while. Until this thing really stops. And people are, I'm so sick of people saying the masks don't work. Of course they do. Of course they do. The high-end masks, N95 and the P100, those work. It'll stop it all. It's just that it'll go through your eyes, so you have to wear, like, goggles, swimming goggles, or something that, will completely seal your eyes, and then wear gloves. Or make sure you wash your hands. Take your clothes off in your garage or some separate room and get some Lysol detergent. I mean, it's not easy. I get it. Your car, you need to wipe and spray it down, and you only have so much Lysol and wipes. I know. At the end of the day, it cuts it off by like 80% of you getting it. And then, even if you do somehow get it, you're just going to get very small load of I don't want to say that word, of the nano zombie. You might get just a few, and then your immune system will be able to, it'll have time to build up antibodies and fight it off. So that's the purpose, the main purpose. And not just that, it really stops it from spreading all around. By the way, I went out yesterday. I don't go out much, like once a week, but I mean, I do go out much more, but I don't come in contact. I don't go into stores or anything. Nobody even looks at me funny anymore. There's already people walking around with masks. I really hate people who are so pressured by society, by social, norms. Like, oh, I don't want to look weird. Okay, well then you'll get it, and then you'll look stupider, because you could have protected yourself. People are not taking this seriously. I see people are driving around everywhere, and Nobody's, I do see some people with masks, but most people are still not. The herd mentality, the herd who watches endless crap on TV, they're still not taking it seriously. In the US, at least. That's what I see. And it'll just keep spreading, and we'll eventually hit herd immunity. The problem is, the road to herd immunity may take years. It's either everyone takes this seriously, wears a mask, social distancing, and then the nurses, doctors, and all of them, they could isolate all of the areas, close the borders, no more air travel, and then you could isolate all the pockets, and then the country's going to be locked down for years because this thing's going to spread. It's just going to keep spreading in other countries, like second world and third world and all that, for years and years, until they all hit herd immunity. By then, these numbers up top here are going to blow your mind. It'll be in the hundreds, or if not tens of millions that are going to perish. But after 3-5 years, something like that, enough people will get herd immunity. See, that's the problem. It's like this is going to be with us for a very long time. Either way you approach this, you either let it run through your population the next couple of years and we get multiple waves of this thing, or we really do a total lockdown of the nation and then isolate the pockets. Everyone wears PPEs and nobody gets in and out. And of course they're going to take advantage of that. Like, your freedoms are gone. But global travel will pretty much come to a halt. There'll probably still be a global trade, nowhere near what it was. But, things are going to be... there'll still be trade. They might wash things down, or when you get the mail, or when it goes to the store, they might do some sort of UV light sterilization, something. There will be measures taken by private companies so they could continue to sell things. Now again, the supply chain is breaking down. Countries are starting to hoard their food and everything they make, and that is my personal biggest concern. If the supply chain, globalized supply chain breaks down, it's going to be bad. Really, really. Then it's very certain there will be runaway inflation, empty shelves. You're not going to be able to get things. And forget the economy coming back. Now, a lot of people say, oh, this will disappear in like a month. It's not. It's not. It still lives and spreads in warm countries. It is what it is. If you don't like reality and it messes with your comfort, Listen, I've been saying this for decades, and life's been easy for a long time. This is just nature. I'm not saying this was a natural event. This was definitely made by people. But it is what it is. And you either learn to cope with it or you don't. And people who are going to suffer, they're going to get violent. Now, there is good and bad, right? Centralization, right, and power of the control structure is going to really come into question by the masses. And years from now, I don't see them staying in power. Like, I'm saying, like, big governments, they're just all going to go away. For one, they're all going to go bankrupt. Two, no one's going to like them or trust them because things are going to get real out of control. It's going to be a lot of people without jobs. Yeah, maybe they'll cut them a check every month so they could get food, but it's about it. Life's going to be miserable. And like Mike Maloney did that video, a lot of your life expectancy is going to drop dramatically for everyone. Well, in general, like if you average it out, right? And it is what it is. That's why I've been saying for years, the goal isn't to buy a Lambo. It's to like get some land and buy a ranch and become self-sufficient. Have some animals like some chickens and have a garden. Actually, I went and bought a bunch of seeds and they're selling out of seeds. Oh yeah, and of course, some politician's gonna make laws where these aren't essential. God forbid people become self-reliant and they don't need their politicians, right? Let's talk about oil. So this modern world we've been living in is made of oil. It's from oil. Oil makes everything possible. Oil is in every piece of thing you own. It was either transported with oil, made with it. It's every plastic is a polymer from oil. Everything's oil, guys. It takes oil to make glass, steel, everything. It's shipped. It's modern civilization. Demand for oil has collapsed, and there's a price war, and I think this will be, and there's a huge glut of it. I think this will be temporary. I still need to look into some shipping containers for possible bullish trades, but here's the thing. Oil might not go up in price, a barrel of oil back up to like 100, but it can't stay at $20 for long, right? It's actually above it now, WTI. There's some good short-term swing trades in oil. Unless the ETF gets delisted. That's what happened to me yesterday. Good thing I'm buying a small position. Anyways. When the lockdown does come off, oil's probably gonna go up. Is it gonna make like new highs or anything? No. But it's gonna recover somewhat temporarily. But from going forward, because of the global supply chain pretty much breaking down and the economy slowing down, the demand for it will be much less. And oil was already cheap before this, so I think we're pretty oil rich in the world now, which is good for the long term. Short term, it's also good because your gas tank's not going to eat up what savings or money you have left, or your paycheck. So that is good. Cheap energy is good for rebuilding the economy and bringing back possibly a manufacturing base to the U.S., although that's not going to happen overnight. To retool and educate people how to make things, not going to be easy, especially in the U.S. with like horrible work ethic. Most people are just lazy as shit. But it's good for that, at least going forward into the future. So here's a chart, what was visualized earlier, just to put into perspective how insane this is. The initial jobless claims. Look at this, never in history before. On Google Trends, it's trending Great Depression, this and that. People are searching for, like, is this going to collapse the economy? Which, yeah, of course. And, of course, my channel isn't growing because they don't want me to grow. They don't want the truth to get out. You would think my channel would be exploding with new viewers in subscribers. It's not. It's proof that I am being chateau banned, right? Here's WTI. Where is WTI right now? Where did it close at? What? Give me a second. It's at 28 right now. That would have been a nice trade from at $20, 19 bucks was the bottom. Well, this I feel like in the next few months this will go a little bit back up, a little bit higher, maybe peak out around. I mean, this will be for the private group, but there's definitely a lot of resistance now at $40. So maybe get back around 30 to 35 for some upside. So the current state of the gold market. There have been recent rumors in gold market about the availability of physical gold. Some social media personalities and news agencies have claimed that there is a shortage of physical gold on the market. However, it is not so much about a shortage of gold, but rather a sudden demand for gold in places where it cannot be quickly supplied in desired form. These availability problems are largely due to what I like to call real-world problems: logistics, production, processing, playing. Again, in my last video, I said, this is what's going to break the futures market. So a lot of mining companies temporarily are shut down. And during this time, demand for gold and silver is still going higher. So whoever buys futures, any foreign country, any hedge fund, any entity, and they're worried that the futures market doesn't have it, or maybe they have a smaller supply than, I don't know, what the paper market's supposedly, the paper market is like 100 times greater than the total metals supplied yearly. It's complete fraud. So if they ask for physical delivery, or they let the future expire, so they have to be delivered, and a lot of people or entities might do that because they want to be first to get the physical, or what's left of it, for the COMEX and the LBMA and all of them, right? And that's when we'll see the emperor without his clothes, and then they'll say, well, we don't have it. We could only pay you in fiat. We can't pay you in physical. And once that news breaks, which is probably going to be very soon, it's going to, I mean, the futures could go limit up based on speculators. And people are just going to start buying mining stocks. I mean, if you can't get physical, the only way you could get exposure is to mining stocks. The only way you could get, upside exposure to the price of gold going up will be mining stocks and ETFs that supposedly have it. Some of them don't. It's questionable, the big ETFs that are based on physical. Well, that's for private members. Okay, anyways, what am I? A lot of people are speculating that Bitcoin is going to rally because people can't get physical silver and gold. All right, let's look at Bitcorn. This is a bearish pennant right here, the yellow lines. See this? And then the price should fall. But maybe it has a little more upside. TA wise. Could be wrong. We're on a 5 count of 9 on the daily, so maybe 4 more days of upside. But then you're running into some serious resistance around 78, 7600. I mean, we have Fibonacci's, and then we have major resistance just from prior price action. Especially at 7600, 7700, somewhere around there. 76 to 78. Like this area right here. So if the price could get past this, then yeah, it could run up and test 10,000 again. But if it can't, and it breaks down, and we'll see if it makes a higher low above the previous low down around 4,300. Or it could just break down in the next few days, and it won't even test the 7,600 area. So that's how I'm looking at it. It's either going to be this or this. If you look at my screen. This or this. And we'll see how... Now, if it does make it up to 7,600, you know, wait to see where the next low is. If it's here, then that's positive. If it's here, it's still positive, but that's a pretty big pullback. But if it makes a new low, then game over. And this is a daily chart. Here's the 10-year yield. If the 10-year yield spikes to test 0.9, the Fed's going to come out, buy more bonds, their balance sheet's going to continue to explode. Right now it's like at 5.6 trillion. I guarantee you we're going to be over 10 trillion in the next like 2 months or 3. And they're going to try to cap the yield on bonds to keep them below 1.0 on the 10-year, so interest rates don't spike and it pretty much blows up what's left of the companies out there hanging on by a thread and currently getting bailed out with stimulus. But when this does happen, at some point it will. At some point they will lose control. It's when you get high inflation. So they're going to keep playing these games and try to reinflate the bubble until, like, you see massive inflation. Like, it's very noticeable. Even your average six-pack Joe is like, what's going on? I can't afford anything anymore. Like, that's when SHTF really happens. Gold did a nice rebound. It's a 1645. So here's what's going to happen with gold in the next few months. Again, I want to see the price get back up to 1700 or 1690. If it could do that, we have an inverse head and shoulders. And higher we go to test all-time highs. Now, see, shoulder, head, shoulder, and then it rallies. Gives you like a above 60-70% probability that'll happen. Which this will happen because, well, you know, endless QE. And people are worried and scared. This is a daily chart of gold, by the way. So when gold gets to 1700, I feel like that's when people are going to start, the speculators will come back and everyone's going to start looking at mining stocks again. When gold makes a new all-time high, which will be like 1900 or something like that. When it shoots up, makes an all-time high around, or tests, or even gets near all-time high, then mainstream media has to cover it, and people are going to notice. And you have to understand, a lot of Americans, a lot of people who used to buy gold and silver, they stopped buying it once Trump was elected. And those people haven't been buying because they think everything's going to be okay because they really believe in Orange Man, right? And they're dismissing all the money printing and all that. I guarantee you, if we had a lefty president, every conservative would be buying gold and silver hand over fist. That's another thing people forget. But when this does go up above 17 or above 1800 or gets around that area, right? No one could ignore it. Not even six-pack, Joe six-pack. And at that point, people are going to wonder, is this another top? Or is this going to go higher? Because usually when the price tests its previous all-time high, it's almost certain it's going to go even higher and make new highs. So the professional investors know that. And then the professional investors will probably just jump on board right around then, and they will stop ignoring the pet rock. And they'll start considering it as money again. There's already mainstream articles out, like Bloomberg and all that, right? And then your moon boys, what's left of them, people want to get rich quick, younger traders, this and that, they might actually start considering buying mining stocks, start speculating with gold. And that'll give you new all-time highs. And once it starts making new all-time highs, takes out the previous all-time high of like 19 whatever, and that can happen overnight for a couple reasons. One, the futures market breaks. Two, China dumps U.S. treasuries. Something like that happens, right? So when the day that happens, you're going to see $100 moves a day. And then the psychology changes. That it goes from gold's going to correct and fall further to, oh my God, I have to buy it, because if I don't, I'm losing my purchasing power because of runaway inflation or stagflation. And then also the psychology is, this isn't going to stop anytime soon, the rally, so I need to buy it now no matter what. So the FOMO happens, the fear of missing out. First, the FOMO is going to happen. Then later, as maybe 6 months from now, 12 months, like a year from now, whenever that inflation's going to pick up, I guarantee you, before this year's end, when the inflation picks up, then it's like, you like gold and silver or you hate gold and silver, it's not going to matter. You have to buy it. Because if you don't, you're losing your wealth. And the rich will buy it. And the rich still have, altogether trillions and trillions of cash. People, might buy stocks. But stocks nominally, because, when you take profits on stocks, you take profits into cash, you're still possibly just breaking even or losing money. At some point, you have to buy it to save yourself. And that's when you see the life-changing gains. And a lot of people aren't going to be able to get physical. The only place left to go is the markets, the paper markets, and mining stocks. And that's what I'm waiting for. And you just have to have patience, and it'll work out, evidently. I think I covered enough today. I'm at 49. Until next time, smash them likes, leave anything in the comment section. See you guys later.